The rain fell like a curtain of glass over the city that day, endless, heavy, and cold. The streets were nearly empty, except for a lone black car crawling through the storm, its wipers battling the downpour. Inside sat Adrian Vale, a man whose name once echoed in every boardroom across the country, but at 41, despite the fortune, the fame, and the success everyone envied, his heart felt hollow. The world outside looked just as lonely as the world within him. As he drove aimlessly through the drenched outskirts of the city, he wasn't heading anywhere, just trying to escape the silence of his penthouse, where memories of loss still lingered like ghosts. His wife was gone, taken by an illness money couldn't cure, and the child they had hoped for never came. Adrian had everything except peace. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of compassion to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal, because sometimes a single act of kindness can turn a stranger into a savior. The storm thickened, the sky bruised with clouds, and puddles mirrored the gray of his thoughts. Suddenly, a faint figure appeared on the side of the road, a young woman, drenched from head to toe, clutching something small in her arms. Her hair stuck to her face, and her trembling hand lifted as if begging the passing cars to stop. No one did. Adrian slowed down, uncertain. His logical mind screamed to keep going. It wasn't safe. People could fake emergencies. But his heart whispered something else. As he pulled over, she stumbled forward and knocked on his window, her voice barely audible through the rain. "Please, my child is sick," she said, her tone trembling with desperation. Adrian froze. In that one sentence, something deep inside him cracked. He unlocked the door without thinking. The young woman, who introduced herself as Clara, slid inside, soaked and shivering. In her arms was a small boy, maybe 4 years old, pale as snow and burning with fever. His lips quivered and his breathing was shallow. Adrian could barely speak as he handed her his coat to wrap the child. Clara kept whispering, "Hold on, Liam, hold on," over and over, like a prayer fighting against time. Adrian pressed on the accelerator and sped toward the nearest hospital. The drive felt endless. Rain pounded on the windshield like time running out. Clara told him she had been walking for miles after her old car broke down. She had no phone, no help, and no one who cared enough to stop. Her boy had been sick for days, and every clinic she visited turned her away because she couldn't pay. As she spoke, her voice broke, and Adrian realized she hadn't eaten or rested in days. She was young, maybe 25, but her eyes carried the weight of someone who had lived through storms much harsher than this rain. At the hospital, doctors rushed to take Liam inside. Adrian followed, drenched and silent. He watched Clara pacing in the hallway, her soaked shoes squeaking on the floor, her hands shaking as she prayed. Hours passed like years. Finally, a doctor emerged, saying Liam had severe pneumonia but was stable now. If she had arrived even half an hour later, it would have been too late. Clara broke down, sobbing, her knees giving way beneath her. Adrian caught her before she fell. She looked up at him through tears and whispered, "I don't know how to thank you." For the first time in years, Adrian felt something alive stir inside him. He stayed until dawn, sitting outside the child's room, watching over them like a silent guardian. When Clara woke, he brought her food from the cafeteria and gently urged her to eat. She hesitated, embarrassed, but he smiled softly, saying it was fine. Days turned into a week. Adrian visited every morning before work, and soon the hospital staff began to whisper. Why was the city's most powerful CEO visiting a small town ward every day? But Adrian didn't care. For once, he wasn't thinking about stock prices or meetings. He was thinking about that little boy's laughter, the way Clara smiled shyly whenever he entered, and the strange, healing warmth that filled his chest when they talked. One afternoon, Clara revealed more of her story. She had lost her husband 2 years ago in an accident. Since then, she'd been working odd jobs to survive, but the bills piled up, and when Liam got sick, she had nowhere to turn. Adrian listened quietly, guilt rising in him. He had spent years surrounded by wealth while people like her suffered unseen. He realized he had built walls of glass and steel around himself, but this woman, soaked in the rain, had shattered them with one knock. When Liam was finally discharged, Clara didn't know where to go. The hospital bill was too high, and her small apartment had been flooded by the storm. Without thinking twice, Adrian offered her help, not out of pity, but out of something purer. He arranged a small home for her and Liam near a quiet park with sunlight and space for the boy to play. At first she refused, but Adrian insisted it was only temporary until she got back on her feet. As the days passed, their lives began to intertwine in small, unexpected ways. Adrian would stop by after work, sometimes bringing groceries, sometimes toys for Liam. The boy adored him and started calling him Mr. Vale. Slowly, Adrian found himself smiling more, laughing again, and feeling a joy he thought he'd lost forever. For the first time since his wife's death, he felt his heart learning to breathe again. But change never comes without fear. Adrian's board members began to question his behavior, his absence from meetings, his generosity toward strangers. Rumors started spreading. The press caught a glimpse of him leaving the small suburban house one evening, and headlines exploded: "Lonely CEO and the mystery mother." Clara panicked, terrified the scandal would ruin his career. She decided to leave quietly, not wanting to burden him. When Adrian arrived the next morning, the house was empty, except for a small note on the kitchen table. It read, "Thank you for everything. You gave us more than hope. You gave us a second chance. Please don't look for us. Just know we'll never forget your kindness." He searched anyway. Days turned into weeks, but she had vanished, leaving no trace. For months Adrian went back to being the man everyone knew, the focused, cold CEO, but inside he felt hollow again. The house he had once filled with light now felt darker than before, yet something inside him had changed permanently. He began donating to hospitals, funding shelters for single mothers, and launching programs for families in crisis. People called it the Vale Foundation, but to him it was Clara's gift, the gift of purpose. A year passed. One sunny afternoon, Adrian visited a community clinic his foundation had built in a small town. As he walked through the corridor, laughter echoed from one of the rooms. He turned, and there she was, Clara, helping a group of children paint a mural on the wall. Liam was beside her, healthy, smiling, wearing a bright red cap. Their eyes met across the room. For a long, trembling second, neither moved. Then, slowly, Clara walked toward him, tears in her eyes but a smile on her lips. She whispered, "I told you I wouldn't forget." Adrian's heart swelled as Liam ran up to him, hugging his legs. In that moment, everything made sense. The rain, the loneliness, the chance meeting, it had all led him here. Not to success or redemption, but to meaning. He realized that sometimes the most broken roads lead to the most beautiful destinations. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Let the world remember that a single act of compassion can change not one, but many lives. And before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe one moment of kindness can rewrite someone's destiny? Because Adrian Vale's story proves that even in the stormiest rain, a single knock can open the door to light.